Hey everyone, welcome to Get Jashed, a conversation series collecting short stories and perspectives on communication and leadership. So for our very first episode I have with me Isaac Calvert, who is a health and fitness expert, a sports nutritionist, a corporate consultant, owner, director, and general boss man of Prestige Fit, a private gym that is online and based in Bowen Hills in Brisbane, Australia, and personal cheerleader to many. Thanks, Isaac.
Oh, cheerleader. That's so nice. Thanks, Jen.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining me and for our first episode of this.
Woohoo.
Woohoo! So we're having conversations or interview style around leadership and communication and what that means for you as a professional and in your industry and also as an individual and how that shows up.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I'm excited to be part of the first one. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So I asked you first because I have witnessed through this whole coronavirus everything. You already displayed a lot of this anyway, but you have been one of those standout people for me that I've witnessed just step up as a leader for your community. So for your members, for your contractors and your staff as well. I teach yoga for Prestige, and work with Isaac with some corporate clients as well. So I've gotten to kind of had this first row seat of you and how you communicate with your community and how you are leading the way into what our new normal is, and what it might be on the other side of all of this pandemic. But it's been really awesome to watch how that shows up in real time. So that's why I brought you on. Yeah.
I appreciate you being in the front row.
It's fun.
If no one was in the front row, I would have nothing to be leading, right?
Exactly. So I am curious. We'll leave it in. I am curious about how your understanding of leadership, what that was like for you growing up. So you can get as personal or not as you like in any of these questions, but what was your understanding of leadership growing up or in your formative years, wherever you first understood leadership?
That is an interesting question, which no one's ever asked me like that before in terms of like where it's shown up in my life. And the thing that first comes to my mind is like I grew up when I was born. My dad actually apparently like I don't remember him saying these things, but he was claiming that I wasn't actually his son. Okay, this is a bit of a heartfelt story, right? So,
For real speaking, or as like a joke claiming, or
no, as in like he was actually not being faithful to my mother at the time, and he was trying to cover it up as a narcissist does by blaming her and saying that she was cheating on him, and of course this child that she was about to have was not hers, which is funny because my dad actually passed away. It's not funny that my dad passed away, but it's funny because at his funeral when I was 19, which was years and years ago now, because he passed away from bowel cancer, I should say. This is a very morbid story already. But anyway, I'm a splitting image of my dad, basically, is what I'm trying to get to, because so it's impossible that I wasn't his son, right? But he was just saying that, and from then on, I had a really poor relationship with my father, and I think I had different father figures in my life, and I think as a young boy, particularly, and a young girl, I guess, would need the same sort of thing, having a mum and dad for different roles in their life, and that's the first sort of leadership that you look up to, right? And I don't like what I saw wasn't a very good experience with my dad. So I guess that sort of walks you down one road, is to choose whether you're going to be like him or not. And I definitely chose not to be like he is or was.
Yeah,
so I think that's the main thing.
Really about what you choose to do with those circumstances or what you're presented with, and then choosing how you're going to show up in that.
Definitely, yeah. But luckily I had I've got two older brothers, so two older brothers that sort of guided me nicely, which is really good. Still do. I'm still inspired by my brothers, both doing really well for themselves.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How would you say that has changed for you now? So that was a few years ago, at that realization, or at that point in time when you were 19. How has that changed for you now, and how you show up either personally or professionally? Or
I think because I chose that road of going down the road of like, I don't want to be a human like this guy. And I'm sure he did have traits like that, but he just wasn't a very courageous or attentive or assertive kind of guy. And he let things, like, he didn't stand his ground with a lot of things, and stand up for what he believed in. And so I think a lot of how I perform and how I go about my life now is I will always stand up for what I believe in, and the people in my team and those around me, I will back them 100%, as long as what they're doing in the right sense, and they mean well by doing it, and they're not out of, they're not doing stuff maliciously or anything like that. I will be in their corner 100%. And even if people are making mistakes, that's part of learning and whatnot, I will still back them 100%. I will just help facilitate, the management of that learning and stuff. Yeah. So it's definitely helped me a lot. Yeah.
That's why I introduce you as personal cheerleader to many, because that's what you do. You actually show up in that you're in everyone's corner, and you're like, yeah, okay, like, this is your thing, cool. Like, I don't get it, but I've got you. And
yeah, definitely.
It's really cool to see. We had, that kind of makes me think of like personal boundaries. What you were saying is how he didn't really stand up for what he wanted and things like that. It just sounds like there's a little bit of maybe like a weakness in personal boundaries on his side. And I know we've had conversations around honesty is a kindness to others and everything like that. And I noticed in your bio, you said you're the unreasonable friend we all need. Can you explain a bit more about what that means?
Well, if someone, like kind of what I just said just before as well, is that I will always back people up 100%. But in saying that, I will always be honest. I'm not going to just pat someone on the back going, "You're doing well," when they're not. I will say, like I often say, that have this conversation with new members, new clients, and I say, I am very honest, and I will be very honest to you. If you're not eating well, or you're not exercising, you're not really doing what you say you're doing, I'll pull you up on it. But I won't sit there and go like, "Why are you looking fat?" sort of thing. You know what I mean? I will ask questions like, "Have you been eating well? How's your water intake? Have you been sleeping well?" These sorts of things. So in being your unreasonable friends, I'll be your unreasonable, loving friend who will ask you the important questions so that gets your mind working to therefore get you physically working.
Yeah.
So it will be reasonably unreasonable.
Reasonably unreasonable.
But I can definitely, depending on the level of accountability that people like and how unreasonable they want me to be, I can definitely be there and do that. And a few incidents actually just in this last week, I've stood my ground on a few things that sometimes, I notice people that do sort of roll over and let the things happen to them. And I notice myself sort of going, "Oh, should I just let this sort of happen? We're in a bit of a crisis," and stuff like that, because people have been trying to walk all over me or take advantage of the situation. But then therefore, by being dishonest and not being congruent with being a good human. So I've actually stood my ground. And one of the sayings I love most in business and personally is being tough but fair. So it's a win-win, always being tough but fair.
Yeah. And when you communicate that level of tough fairness, do you find that, is it challenging for you to communicate that? Or did you have moments, especially when you were learning to communicate it, that it felt like a little scary to, or was it always just something that came naturally to you?
No, I think it's definitely a learnt skill. A lot of it. I think for me personally, like I was not a very confident person before I got into health and fitness. In fact, I lived the very opposite life to what I do now. I was a bit of a party animal, and I had all sorts of different views on my life, and that could have been to do with my leadership early on. But I made a pretty clear decision all of a sudden to get myself healthy and out of that scenario where it could have been a lot more dangerous for my health and my life, probably, and for the people that I was hanging out with. But I made I guess, what was the question?
It was an ad hoc question. I made it up on the fly.
I was like, you got to go right out.
No, did you find it challenging to
communicate? Or did it come naturally to me? Nah, it's a learned skill. So I think when I made that decision to sort of learn these things, I invested a lot in coaches and self-development courses and personal coaches and business coaches, and like I always, for the PTs and stuff and the trainers and coaches that are coming to see me, I'm always like, well, have you had a personal trainer before? And a lot of them are like, well, nah. I'm like, what? You don't know what it's like to have a personal trainer, so how can you be a personal trainer? Or, you know, if you haven't had a coach, how can you be a coach?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make, those sorts of things don't congruent to me. So what I did is I wanted to learn from as many people as I could and be congruent to that by knowing what it feels like to have a trainer. So I invested in 3.
Yeah, you with your team.
Yeah, well now I do. We've got 10 of us, right? But I at the time I put my money where my mouth is, and even though I didn't have it, and I had 3 separate personal trainers.
Nice.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, well, I learned from all different angles, and I learned lots of different cues and communication stuff, and how people go about doing all sorts of things. So it was good. It was worthwhile.
That's really good. I think that shows up in how you've created the Prestige Fit community as well. Like the community of members and also the community of trainers that you have. You look for trainers that have different qualities and different expertise, like not levels, but also perspectives and different areas that they have a passion in, and how you've created the community and encourage the community to explore that as well is really, I feel like it's really paramount to how easeful, and I don't mean without work and effort, because I know that there's been a lot of work and effort that's gone into this, but how easeful this transition, especially right now, has been compared to what it could be in the current times with coronavirus and everything, and lockdown and gyms being closed. Like, it could have been a whole different story if you hadn't put in that work beforehand and hadn't really valued those things. So I guess the next question is really, how do you, if you could explain to people watching, how do you choose to communicate within that group, within that community?
How do I choose to communicate?
Is there an active choice?
Well,
I
try. One of the big things, especially like this at this sort of time in the world, when we're all locked down, I think one of the major things to me was communication. Is just like absolutely communicating everything clearly and precisely and very honestly about where we're at and what we're doing. And I think we did, like, from when there was that Sunday night and Australian government shut down gyms completely, and within like an hour and a half we were live. I was doing my first live ever, actually, on Facebook. I've never done a live before, ever. And then I was communicating.
Yeah.
And the only reason it was an hour and a half behind is I actually completely changed the whole structure of our online group from being public to private, so that it could facilitate just our clients. Which that all happened pretty smoothly. And then I've been trying to communicate daily with everybody. So I think consistently communicating where we're at and encouraging everyone that we're going to be getting through this time and we can do it together, and sort of, I think that eases the mind rather than letting the mind wander. And go, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? How am I going to train?
Yeah, and your points of view of, like, there's no other choice either. It's not like you can just go to another gym that's open because they're all closed.
Agreed. I got phone calls as well about that. Like, I got phone calls from people going, "You guys are a private gym. Is the same laws apply to you guys? Because we'd like to just come to you guys." I'm like, unfortunately, that doesn't.
But you can also come to us.
You can come to us. We're online. You don't have a choice to just turn up to another gym.
Yeah, exactly. So where do you think you've gotten, whether it's communication or your leadership, and this can be, you can answer personally or professionally within that community, the Prestige Fit community. Where do you think you've gotten it really right?
The communication and the leadership. Where do I think I've got it really right? I don't know if I've ever got it 100% right, Jess, to be honest. I think I don't think I've ever got it perfect.
There's
And
areas within areas that have landed right though.
yeah, I think there's some that have landed right, yeah, and have been like, and that have been, and I've got off, communicating whatever, I've been off a live or a phone call, and I've thought, man, that was good.
Yeah.
That felt good. Then there's been others where I've been like, "Ugh." But I guess that's just how we go about, how we feel in the day.
Yeah, how
But
you
I think I
as
think sorry, I think there's like, yeah, a couple of times where we've been communicating with the team and stuff, and just getting conversation going with everybody. So especially in that first team meeting that we had a first team meeting, and it was kind of like first online team meeting, and everyone's just sort of hanging out there, and everyone's just telling their story about where they're at, what they're doing, but everyone else is intently listening. That was a really cool one that sort of highlights to me just how powerful the community is together in terms of communication as well.
I think you get it really right in how you ask questions of people. So in that first team meeting, you said, you're like, if we can just go around and share like where we're at. So you open and you send, like, you give the invite and almost that permission slip for people to actually share where they're at or whatever the question or invite is for. But you have a really good way, and you do it often and frequently, of asking the actual question rather than just maybe assuming or whatever it is. You actually check in and you let people share, or you check in with them privately and you just be like, yeah, where are you at? That kind of thing. And I would say that's one thing that you definitely get right.
Definitely, yeah. And again, like, this is another thing actually with this is with a personal coach that I learnt from a few years back. We invested a hell of a lot of money actually to this one dude, and it was worth every cent. Like, I thought it was very expensive at the start, but this good friend of ours now, he worked with Tony Robbins and all this stuff. He'd written this really cool book called How Would Love Respond, and he was all about questions. He's done a lot of self-development in that whole area of like communicating, but not communicating with other people so much, communicating with yourself. And he talked about this I'll always live by it, really. Basically, it stuck with me because he beat it into us over the weeks. Just said it again and again and again. He'd tell the same stories over again, and at the time I was like, why is he telling us the same story again? But it's because now I will never forget it, and that's the only way to learn, right? It's that repetition. So he used to say to us, the quality of life is determined by the quality of your communication. But the quality of your communication is determined by the quality of your questions. So it's quite a deep thing. So the quality of your life is determined by your communication and your mind, because no one else hears this. You don't know what I'm thinking about. I don't know what you're thinking about. We'd probably go crazy if we didn't know that. You know what I mean? If you knew that. But it's important what you're saying to yourself, it's more important what you're asking yourself. So what are you asking of yourself? I think that's an important thing and that just flows out of you after learning those things. So again, it's a learned skill, I think, to be able to communicate well like that. And I naturally kind of think, like, instead of someone always asks me, you're such a glass half full kind of guy. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm actually not a glass half full kind of guy. I'm just grateful that there's water in the glass for me to drink.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll live by that sort of principle, is that just gratitude and being like, how can I make the most of all the opportunities, like that sort of question, or what's been great about this whole scenario. That's why I put it out to the groups and stuff.
Yeah.
Often I ask those questions. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then to finish up with, there's a 2-part question.
Cool. I love questions.
Where do you feel like there's room for improvement, both personally and also within your industry or the world at large? So you can answer either, but personally and then.
In terms of communication?
And leadership and all.
Leadership and all.
Whatever. Yeah.
in my profession, for me personally, or for the industry?
Personally for you is part one.
Yeah.
Part two is the industry and or the world, if you like, you can
Yeah.
choose.
For me personally, I think I think you can always work, and particularly me, and I can always work on my courage and I don't mean courage of like just your own self fear of jumping into things, and just going with it and backing yourself. I think that's a cool skill to always just keep on top of, so it doesn't fade.
Yeah.
Um, that's for me personally. I think I just need to keep doing that in terms of leadership, and just going like, here's this thing, bam, this is what we're going to do, and try and move with it and see how it goes, um, and work with just roll out with the roll with the punches, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then the industry, geez, it's a long list.
Be as vague or specific as you like.
Well, I think the funny thing is like there's this been I love this time right now because like I don't love the coronavirus, but I love what it's done for health and fitness and the opportunities it's presented to good places, to good coaches and genuine people that genuinely want to help people get healthy, fit, and strong, and keep, put them in a healthy place. And not so much the money hungry commercial gyms that'll manipulate you into their contracts, because they've all had to stop their behavior, and they don't have the community to fall back on. So unfortunately, those businesses will fall apart, and it's unfortunate for them, but they've been going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's been forever a thing. It's been on my shoulder for a long period of time, and I take responsibility for it as well, because I'm part of that community. But I've always communicated that from day dot. When I first worked in a big gym, I worked there for 3 weeks, and the guy was going to make me, I just fresh out of college, make me the manager. I was like, yeah, I would back myself as the manager 100%, because I looked around and I was like, the talent here is,
Yeah.
that's the level of it. I was like, but you guys are taking care of people's health and wellness and their mental well-being, and there's just so much to the relationship of you and a coach. And I didn't want to be a part of that. That's why we started Prestige pretty quickly, to get away from that sort of mentality. So I think this is kind of like a godsend in many respects, having this to sort of bring those businesses down to the level that they need to be at, and to be like, it's kind of a reality check for them, like,
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's a really cool opportunity for those people that want and actually crave some sort of nurturing from great coaches, because we're here and we're not going anywhere, because we've got great communities, and we're happy to take more people on board, right? And all the other boutique gyms and stuff that are doing really well with their communities and stuff. I think it's a cool opportunity to start to sort of take that market share for those businesses.
Yeah. Find a new sense of leadership in the industry as well.
Definitely, yeah. Well, that's what I think. I think it's the time to shine for these really cool boutique gyms.
Yeah, because leadership in the health and fitness industry isn't necessarily about who can get the most jacked. And
No,
yeah,
it has been for a while, and for like the 24/7 gym models that everyone walks in and they just have their headphones in, and the trainers walk past you doing something dangerous, but they won't say anything because they probably don't know any better. It's the time's gone for them, unfortunately, because right now there's a bunch of coaches out there giving away tons of free great content and trying to maximize their reach. And they will do that, and there'll be the time for the boutique gyms. You'll see boutique gyms, I think, and personal training studios and great coaches really thrive in a time like this.
Yeah.
That's for all industries. I don't think it's just health and fitness. I think it's across the board in service-based industries.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, concludes. Thanks so much for joining me for episode number 1. Thanks for sharing, especially straight off the bat there. That was really nice. So
Yeah.
get a little bit vulnerable. It's good. It's helpful.
Yeah, I love vulnerability. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, go with it.
It's been really apparent lately as well with certain things. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, for another time.
Yeah, another time. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And yeah, I'll chat to you soon.
Rockin'.